As the last of the confetti falls to the floor on the Eurovision stage in Liverpool, I want to take a moment to produce this video reflecting on what a 7th Swedish Eurovision win means for the contest overall. Well, Loreen lifting the microphone trophy for Sweden means that the country have now won the contest as many times as Ireland, so a long-standing 27-year record has now been broken. In the modern Eurovision era, which I would class as 2000 onwards, Sweden have won the competition 3 times, in 2012, 2015 and now 2023 of course. Again, excluding Ukraine, no other country has this distinction. Sweden have also qualified from every semi they took part in since 2011. 12 solid years of back-to-back qualifications is nothing to be sniffed at. I don't want to retread too much old ground, but in summary, Sweden is great at Eurovision. Loreen's win also means that she becomes just one of 2 people to have won the Eurovision twice as a performer. Back in the 80s, the contest was much smaller, but in this modern day of large-scale stadium shows and with almost 40 countries taking part, finishing out on top is extremely difficult to do. Yes, Loreen is very popular in the fan community and is the undisputed crown queen of the competition, but she has also been able to appeal to the masses, and anyone with a passing interest in Eurovision could tell you who she is. This cross-cultural global appeal is hard to pull off and certainly doesn't happen overnight. Having seen Loreen in person many times, I can confirm she is as warm and appealing as she seems on screen. Loreen is thoroughly authentic and is continually giving to the fans. This can't be faked and goes a long way in securing votes. I like Loreen's music, however, talking about her back catalogue, I can't say that Tattoo was and is my favourite song. I think that Statements is lyrically superior and much more interesting. Tattoo had hints of The Winner Takes It All from ABBA, and the performance, large sandwich maker aside, wasn't too dissimilar from Euphoria. I would have liked to have seen something that was a complete departure from what had gone before, as opposed to a reheated remix. I think it's a shame that the victory hasn't gone to a country that has never won before. Slovenia, I believe, have really learned from past mistakes and put forward a spirited and interesting package. Near neighbours Croatia also took a massive risk, sending something that was far outside of the safe Europop bubble. An Eastern European victory would allow the obvious economic benefits that this global musical extravaganza brings to be shared out, and has mutual benefits for visitors to the country and of course those living there. It also helps to spread the Eurovision message outside of its popular cultural centres. Sweden is already a highly engaged nation when it comes to the contest, and everything stops when their national song competition is being broadcast. Setting these arguments against Sweden's win aside, I wanted to look at the positives to them winning. As I have stated in other videos before, Sweden is heavily invested in the Eurovision process, and no expense is spared when it comes to the staging and production of their widely successful Melodifestivalen national selection contest. This is a country that is so self-assured with their production that the staging you see at the national selection is more or less what you will see on that Eurovision stage. Sweden understands that any Eurovision entry needs to be an audio-visual spectacle, and they plan everything out in almost forensic detail. Sweden is a country that understands how to craft entries that have cross-cultural appeal that will be popular with juries and televoters alike. Sweden isn't one of the big 5, so has to go through the qualification process like other small nations. I think though that Sweden's success shows that you don't have to be one of the economic power players of Europe to succeed in the competition, and indeed I think their success has inspired the Scandinavian neighbours to do well too. Finland, Sweden and Norway ending up in the top 5 of this year's grand final leaderboard is no accident. Sweden have also successfully moved with the times. They don't coast by on the ABBA glories of yesteryear, they are continually reinventing themselves and bringing something interesting and eye-catching to the stage. They are not trotting out the same tried and tested formulas in the hopes of repeat success. I think that too, it has to be said, is one of Loreen's weaker offerings. I believed, as I have said before, that Statements was a far superior song, and I was surprised when this didn't secure the ticket to Kiev. As a Eurovision fan, it is always nice to see new countries lift that Eurovision trophy. Seeing not just the same country, but the same artist lift the glass microphone for the second time is slightly dispiriting. It further centralises the power and influences of certain nations at the competition and can leave the competition as a whole feeling rather stale and repetitive. I'd really like to see countries like Armenia, Albania, Croatia and Slovenia finally getting the recognition that they deserve. I'd be interested to see what a competition in their nations would look like. Sweden is infiltrating the competition in a myriad of ways, some of which aren't so obvious. Many countries turn to the songwriting prowess of Sweden to help them craft their entries. Even countries like Ireland, who speak English as a first language, jetted to Stockholm to lean on the songwriting expertise of one Jörgen Olofsson to help them craft their entry. Peter Bostrom has written for Norway, Spain and co-penned Euphoria and Tattoo for Laureen. Malmo-based Laurel Barker has written songs for Austria, Switzerland and Norway in addition to Sweden. Sasha Jean-Baptiste is a prolific name when it comes to staging. She'd worked with Cyprus, Bulgaria, Sweden and this year designed the staging for Switzerland. Sasha herself is Swedish and also was behind the winning entry for Laureen in 2012. EBU Chief Executive Martin Österdahl is a Swede, of course, and I noticed that when another Swede, Christer Björkman, brought Eurovision to the USA in the form of the American Song Contest, it had a very Scandinavian flavour, as I felt it was very Melody Festivalen inspired in presentation and execution. I have to say though that I am a huge fan of Sweden and its culture. Indeed, I have spent the last number of years learning the language, and I was at Stockholm 2016 and was blown away by how well it was run. It is one of my favourite contests of all time. This is by no means sour grapes. If countries work hard, they deserve to reap the rewards. My concern comes with the homogenised nature of the competition. In this year's contest, I noticed that the host repeating the country name and scores in French during the voting had been dropped, and the French language was largely absent from the presentation. The vast majority of songs are also now presented in English. If this is meant to be a showcase of language and culture, shouldn't that be on display more? And shouldn't we as Europeans be working hard to preserve it? As a long-time fan of Ireland at the contest, this could be seen as sour grapes, but I have to stress, Ireland, as I've stated before, has failed to move with the times. The national selection competition is lacklustre at best and deeply embarrassing at worst. If Ireland thinks that putting forward cheesy pop anthems with lyrics like "You might be a leader, I might be a freak" is going to send them sitting to the top of the scoreboard in 2023, then they are seriously misguided. And not one's musical ear is now decidedly tone deaf. I have a video coming up shortly on Ireland at the competition, so stay tuned for that. If countries work hard, they deserve to do well. I have always been a great believer in that. If Sweden are setting their sights on winning once a decade, then providing the quality is there, then I have no issue with that. Sweden are not limping over the finish line, they are confidently striding ahead, and the points from both juries and the public reflect that. My issue is with all countries just lazily sitting by and complaining that they don't have the budget, resource, national interest, etc. United Kingdom went from 0 points to near the top of the leaderboard in the space of a year. At the time, the Eurovision was far from popular in the nation. There are always ways to turn things around that don't result in having to invest a small fortune. Money doesn't always equal Eurovision success. I hope that Loreen's win serves as a wake-up call to all nations to start raising their game and aim higher. Fans are investing their time, effort, energy and financial resources to go and support their respective nations. It's incumbent on the host broadcaster to ensure they are putting their best foot forward to ensure that this expense is not fruitless. In summary, I am thrilled for Sweden. They are a music-loving nation and a Eurovision powerhouse. They aim to win and they mostly hit the target. My concern is an overly homogenized competition that becomes less exciting and grimly predictable. It would be nice as a fan to see nations that never win get to experience the joy of walking up to the podium to give Europe and the world a reprise of their song, and also have the opportunity to welcome the world to their nation the following year. I'll be interested to see how each participating nations reconfigures themselves in the coming 12 months and what they bring to the table in the hopes of securing Eurovision glory themselves. With Luxembourg, another Eurovision powerhouse, back in the frame, how will that change things? For now though, I'm signing off. Stay tuned for some content coming in the near future. I'll be making a video about aforementioned Luxembourg's return and another video about Ireland's misfortune at the competition. I had a great week in Liverpool and it was so great to meet so many people who are enjoying this content. Your support is, as ever, much appreciated. The Eurovision may be over for another year, but remember, Eurovision 365 is for every day, not just in May. Take care.